Welcome back. Our next guest is ushering in a new sense of beauty and self-confidence for adolescent girls growing up in today's world of social media, cyberbullying, and whatnot. Naomi Katz is here to talk about the beautiful project. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Nice to meet you, and congratulations on all of your success.
Thank you.
First, let's talk about the book you wrote. So, you've been doing this a long time, working with, with adolescents, and you wrote a book, and now it's in Hebrew. How long was that process, just of the translation?
Well, it was much more than just translation. It wasn't only about taking an English text and bringing it to be functional in Hebrew, but also the text is written really for teenage girls. And so it's written in a specific tone that really reaches them. And Hebrew is different from English. And so you really need to kind of figure out
colloquialisms, different. It's not just a direct Google Translate situation, right?
No, not even close. So we went through a long process. We translated the text, and throughout that process, we worked with a bunch of girls to ask them, well, how would you say this? How would you refer to this? And then we had a young woman go over the whole thing and edit it, and then after that it went through professional editing.
So tell me kind of your main passion vis-a-vis how you want to inspire young people today.
I think that what happens to young people in today's world of constant stimulation and of course social media and just really the natural, what has really been forever one of the feelings of teenagers, which is really important to fit in, that we all lose a sense of ourselves and a sense of connection to our inner voice. And the work that I do with girls and also with boys is really about that. How do I return to myself, listen to what my own inner voice is telling me, and make good decisions? Because when teenagers make difficult decisions, us, the adults, we're not going to be there.
Right. Well, and also, how do you teach them how to find what that voice is and to even honor that voice?
It's a process. It's not something that happens in one class or 1 week or even necessarily 1 year, but it's really a practice. How do I stop, breathe, listen to myself, and connect and figure out what's the right thing for me.
Right.
And there's also a journey in there of understanding, okay, this is the cultural voice that I'm learning, and this is the voice of my parents, and this is the voice of my friends, and to identify throughout all of those different influences, what's my voice?
And so the beautiful project in and of itself, so tell me how it works.
So basically for a long time I was facilitating girls groups in the United States and in Israel. And then a number of years ago when my book came out in English, my work kind of transformed into working at the next level, working with educators and with parents and the people who are working with girls. And so I do a lot the workshops,
so educating the educators.
Exactly.
Because I imagine being you being a teacher for many, many years, it's like, it's one thing to teach, it's another to kind of understand, the psychology of adolescents too. So this is important.
Absolutely. And also when we're in the classroom, we don't even necessarily pay attention to how much we as human beings, as men, as women, as adults, are bringing our own selves to the students. And so I find that even though it might not necessarily be the initial focus, a lot of my work with educators ends up being about who am I as a woman and how do I bring myself forward in that way, or who am I as a man and how do I bring myself forward in that way to my students.
And what's the main message that you tell these girls? Given the times that we're in, when we were adolescents it was different, but everyone has to deal with high school and mean girls and whatnot. So what's the main advice on, even the self-empowerment piece on how to do that?
I think that there are a lot of different approaches, and it's really different for each person. But again, what I said previously about connecting to ourselves, another piece of it is also really being able to be inside of our bodies and listen to our bodies. Because young women, and I can say this about myself, as we start to grow and develop, I remember when my body started to change, I didn't like it. And I don't have the body that, perfect models have, and I never will. And it's been a very long journey for me to accept my body. And I think that there was a point in my adolescence, and I see this among so many girls and women, where we detach from our bodies. And then there are two entities.
And then we don't learn to embrace our body as a, its own living, breathing part of ourselves.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
But it's also interesting because, even obviously Bar Raffaelli, we've got the Bar Raffaellis of the world, but you meet people that are even they had self-image issues.
Of course.
Even the most beautiful, because they were tall. I remember interviewing models and they felt tall and awkward themselves as kids.
Of course, we all do. And I think that if you really, as per your question, what's the essence of it? Self-love. How do I learn to love myself and accept myself? Even though I'm not perfect and I will never be perfect, I still am worthy of respect and of being related to in a way that's positive, most of all from myself.
And some of the stories of the young women and men that you've worked with that have obviously grown up. Have you seen a huge change in what's become of them because of your your connection?
There are some girls from the very first girls group, women from the very first girls group that I worked with, over 20 years ago, who are moms now, and I'm still in touch with a number of them. And they say, I can't say that this is a quality that they possess because of their work with me, because they've been through many, many, many things since then. But they say that this work that we did when they were in 7th and 8th grade has an impact. So
wow, that's so amazing. And what is the main difference you find between adolescents in Israel versus, the States?
I think that the core issues that adolescents in the Western world in general are dealing with are the same. And I think that one of the things that I observe in Israel is that the presence of the army, and the fact that even though many young people today don't necessarily actually go to the army, but the fact that that's the place where the initiation happens for young people today has an impact positively and negatively. Mm-hmm. And young people in Israel know that. In the U.S., my observation is that for some people, for some young people, that kind of initiation happens in college, but not everybody goes to college. And when is that point when you really start to see yourself as an adult,
right, and
figure out who you are as an adult?
Right, yeah. I mean, it's a whole different trajectory. I mean, 18-year-olds are leaving the nest, going to college and going to frat parties, and Israeli 18-year-olds are doing something quite different. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And keep up the good work.
Thanks a lot.